talking about Kade Ruotolo versus Ethan Crelinsten. Some say the most controversial match in Who's Number One history. They threw down last year. It seems like ages ago, to be honest. Now they had a great match on the Who's Number One stage in Dallas when we were doing them up there for a second. A non-stop match. Is that safe to say that these two literally didn't stop grappling for 10 minutes straight? It was one of the more exciting matches of the night.
Yeah, I mean they both have endless cardio, and you need no better example than this match. I mean, they were constant attacks. Kade had a nice couple of Kimura and straight arm lock attacks at the beginning of the match, and then Ethan just went on and on with leg entries and back attacks, and it almost rolled off the mat about a dozen times, right? But they kept fighting. Exactly.
Super exciting matchup. So this one we rebooked it. Kade won that one. The controversy, there was a little bit of controversy. A lot of people thought Ethan kind of dominated positionally the match, and Kade kind of had the more submission attempts. He had a couple of steamer lock attempts. He had an armbar attempt and things like that. So, kind of a story of what do you value more, positional dominance or submission attacks. At the time, the rule set for Who's Number One was borrowing from Fight to Win, so they awarded the fight to Kade Ruotolo because of his superior submission attacks. A lot of people were up in arms a little bit about that. What do you think about that, Corey? Did you have an opinion when you watched the match as to who you thought won?
When I was watching it live, I was surprised that it did not go to Ethan, based on the leg entries and the back attacks towards the end of the match. Rewatching it, I think it was a little bit more even.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you're watching it live, you get fixated on one position or one attack. I see it a little bit more closely now than I saw it when I was watching it live, but still, definitely some question marks. I think it's one of the key reasons why we have been so explicit about defining what the Who's Number One rule set is, and what the Who's Number One rules are focused on, right? What our priorities are with the judges, what the judges are looking for, but definitely a key match in the redesign of our rule set.
Yeah, and so since that match, and we've reevaluated kind of our rule set system, like Corey was saying here at Who's Number One. We still very, very much are valuing submission attacks very highly, but they have to be dangerous submission attacks. They have to be submission attacks that lead to hyperextensions or that lead to scrambles or position loss, things like that. Submission for the sake of submission when there's no kind of advantage position or anything like that, those aren't going to be scored very high. And we are taking a renewed focus looking at positional dominance. It can't be completely disregarded like how some rule sets kind of disregarded in the past. We're taking more consideration into the fold and looking at positions like mount, positions like guard passes, positions like back takes and things like that, and really valuing them high, especially when athletes do something with those advantageous positions. So definitely, it's a little bit different of a rule set now. I'm not going to say it changes a whole lot, to be honest, for Kade or for Ethan. I think that hopefully the rule set will just give everybody a better sense of who the actual winner is, because we want to find out who has the best jiu-jitsu. That's ultimately what we're looking for. Who has the better jiu-jitsu that night, positionally, submission-wise, and then the last thing we're looking for is aggression. We want these guys who are going after it, but I don't think we're going to have a problem worrying about aggression from guys like Kade and Ethan. So what do you think about this one, Connor? You watched the first match. What stuck out to you in the first match? Do you think it's going to be very similar this time around? Do you think things are going to be changed up a lot? What are you feeling on this match?
I think that really comes down to what Kade shows up, honestly. I know Corey had talked about a few question marks around the match. And for me personally, the question marks were the armbar attempts. How, they weren't positionally super secure, so they were only able to be locked in for a second or two at a time. That being said, there was obvious discomfort and a little bit of hyperextending. And I think those are where you get little bits of question marks of yes, it's a sub attempt. Does that counteract all of Ethan's leg entries, and there's no like good, one-to-one quantitative way of figuring that out. I think moving forward for the next match, I hope that Kade has more answers for not the leg attacks, but the entries into the leg entanglements, because that seems Kade didn't really seem super panicked whenever he actually had his legs trapped in there. But he did get his legs trapped in there quite a bit. And, with someone like Ethan, you cannot just give him an ankle and let him hold on to it for too long. He got out of the first match without getting finished. If he does not have an answer for that kind of leg entry this time around, I don't know if he gets that lucky a second time.
Well, here's something and I think that's a great point. Here's something that this match kind of brought to my attention was.
And just real quick, I think we do have a clip of this first match here a little bit that we can play while you get.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go ahead here.
One thing that came to my mind rewatching this match is, we talk a lot about when you get to a dominant position, you have to do something with it, right? You get a side control and you don't attack an arm lock or a choke. Really, the side control isn't worth a whole lot.
Yep.
I would say the same thing about like an inside Sakaka position, right? You get to the position, you dominate you control it for 10 minutes and the other guy does nothing, clearly you win. But if you get to that position and you don't ever attack a leg or try and follow it up, what's that position really worth?
Mm-hmm. It's a great point. I think we've talked a lot about kind of what went wrong in the match or to blame the rule set or whatever, but I think, it's fair to look at what Ethan didn't do in this match. He knew the rule set. He knew that submissions were highly rewarded. And I think, he, like both of you said, he gets into some really advantageous leg entanglement positions here, but he just doesn't fire off those submission attacks. And I think if he fired off the submission attacks when he got to the legs, maybe we wouldn't be talking about how this was a controversial match or whatever. So maybe that's something that he needs to kind of fix this time around is when he does get to those positions, you need to be immediately firing off attacks. Is that kind of what you're talking about, Connor? I mean, Corey?
Yeah, I think so. And to my recollection, maybe he did attack a couple, but Kade defended them well.
Yep.
Regardless, I'm really curious to see how either of them change their game plan going into the next match, if at all.
Yeah, and I talked a lot about to Ty when he was here in Austin for the last Who's Number One, and talked about the Craig match, and those guys are very eager to fight the leg lockers of the world. There was a time where they weren't very well versed on it. You can look back at the ADCC trials when both of them, I believe both of them got leg locked there. But, that was a long time ago, especially in the world of the Ruotolos when they're, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Like they're so young, they're progressing so quickly. So at least talking to Ty, they want to fight these leg lockers. They think that they have the secret formula or whatever to beat these leg lockers. And so I think they're very anxious to kind of prove that they have the formula to beat these guys.
And we're gonna get two looks at that at Who's Number One, right? We're gonna get to see Kade fight Ethan, who has great leg locks as well as a great well-rounded game. But then that's kind of an appetizer for Kade Ruotolo versus Craig Jones in the main event, which will be the premier leg locker in jiu-jitsu most likely versus the guy who thinks he can beat him.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this has a lot of implications for ADCC too, right? I mean, Ethan and Kade, I believe, are going to be in that 66. Maybe Kade will move up to 77, but I think they'll be in around that weight class, if not just one above or whatever. But I think there's implications here for sure for ADCC, and you're going to see Ty possibly at 88, where Craig is in ADCC. So both these matches I think have really big implications for the future of grappling for sure.